Ida B. Wells Barnett, a founding member of the NAACP, is her hero. She was a graduate of a historically Black college, Rust College, of which she is also a proud graduate. Today, Willie-Shaw will be speaking to us on the topic of In Times Like These, centering around voting in the current climate of COVID, protest, and rallies. I'd like to introduce Willie-Shaw.
Good afternoon, Northside AARP listeners and others who might have tuned in with us today. We thank you very much. It's my pleasure to address your group. Let me warn you that my voice may go in and out or up and down an octave due to a recent procedure that I've had. But make no mistake, my passion for justice has not gone down. My title this afternoon is borrowed from a gospel song that was written in 1943 by Ruth K. Jones. It is written in her biography that she sat reading an article in her hometown of Pittsburgh in the local newspaper. She saw the World War II casualty list, and she knew the Allies were making slow progress through the boots of Italy. Supplies were rationed at home, and everyone was living under incredible stress. Inspired by a biblical verse, she began jotting down the stanzas of this song. Little more was heard of this song until it was popularized back in 1963 by singer Mahalia Jackson, then later by Reverend James Cleveland, who is known as the father of gospel music. The song's popularity has continued through the ages, becoming one that is often included on the list of activist songs. World War II, which lasted from 1938 to 1945, involved many of the world's countries, just as COVID does today. Lines between military and civilian distinction were blurred. Millions were dying in the war. There was looting, there was bombing. It cost the United States approximately $288 billion, and that was in 1940 dollars. Certain supplies were rationed in an effort to have enough food for everyone, just as we have in the pandemic with people in long lines, if you've seen, going to the food pantries and waiting in line at different churches for food. I am by no means intimating that war at any level, but what I am saying is there is a similarity in what Ruth is feeling and expressing in that song that resonates with the historical circumstances of African Americans. The feeling of fear, the feeling of anger, weariness, the feeling of helplessness, the feeling of outrage, the feeling of frustration, the feeling of fatigue, and the feeling of anxiety. Many African Americans and others feel that the years of compromise, the years of doing the right thing, the years of sit-ins, the years of peaceful protests, and in some cases, even nonviolence has continued to leave the masses of our people in dire poverty. I chose the theme in times like these because people from all walks of life today are pondering the issue or the question, what do we do in times like these? Thousands, if not millions, are saying the pandemic has exposed a multitude of inequities in our society, from healthcare to housing, to education, to employment, to policing, to climate, to policies at the head of our local, state, and federal government. This exposure may be true for many, but I guarantee you that it is not an exposure that activists from Harriet Tubman to Frederick Douglass to James Baldwin to Booker T. Washington to Malcolm X to Dr. King and to John Lewis, to our local, state, and national leaders, as well as millions of ordinary citizens in the Black community. We have always been aware of this. Our people are told, if you would just work harder, your circumstances will change. We're told, slavery doesn't matter. It was in the past. Our families had nothing to do with it. Jim Crow doesn't matter. Having inferior schools doesn't matter. Having inferior housing and slum landlords just doesn't matter. There are few to no role models in our media or school textbooks. But guess what? That doesn't matter. Having the highest rate of infant mortality, that doesn't matter. Asthma, that doesn't matter. High blood pressure, that doesn't matter. Diabetes, that doesn't matter. Teachers of color in our schools, that doesn't matter. The list is endless. It just doesn't matter. Many say, just look at Oprah. She made it. Look at Denzel Washington. He made it. Look at Michelle and Barack. They made it. Our people have endured tragedy after tragedy in this country. And no, we're not leaving. That's a topic for another time. Let's reverse the roles for a minute. Just try, as difficult as it may be, to imagine the above scenario for yourself, for your children, for your grandchildren. Imagine the daily tragedies, the atrocities, and the inequities hurled upon your ancestors for 400 years in perpetuity through the current generation, and condoned and supported in many cases by your government. What would you expect? Would you expect that none, some, or most would succeed or thrive in this environment? Northside AARP, you ask, how racial tensions might influence the upcoming vote and election? My short answer is, at every opportunity, when Black people feel there is a possibility, even the slightest possibility for change, but especially and particularly groundbreaking historical change, they are at the polls in masses. This system is not blind to this occurrence. It is precisely why voter suppression has been propelled to the top of the list of concerns in this democracy at this time. More often than not, those that are encouraging suppression are actually aware of the possibility of change. That just might be why they think about it. They work so hard at it, because it might adversely affect themselves and their descendants. Northside AARP, you ask, what can we do to get the vote out? The National Office of the NAACP has instituted a volunteer with the NAACP civic program, which all citizens across all 50 states and other countries can help to increase voter turnout, and specifically Black voter turnout. You can contact up to 20 infrequent voters in the weeks before the 2020 election that will start in November. For more information about this, I ask you to visit naacp.org and click on Engage. There you have the opportunity to sign up and make a difference. Secondly, in mid-September, we will have a list of infrequent voters in the Evanston community who you may contact via text to encourage voter participation. Please share a list with me if you have members that are interested in either of these. Lastly, during an election, During an election is not the only time you can promote social justice efforts. The progress that has been made and is in large part due to those of other races who are willing to stand up and speak out against inequities. We all know social justice is an underlying principle for peaceful and prosperous coexistence. But while we can agree with this, many of us are at a loss when it comes to acting on or upholding the principles of justice in our everyday lives. So, in answer to this dilemma, allow me to share a few ideas, none of which are new, but all make a powerful difference in putting our words into action. Spread the word. Begin by reading reputable accounts of our history. I said read reputable accounts of our history. Seek to self-analyze how you have contributed to the perpetuation of this system we live in. Or what did you do to halt the perpetuation? Social justice policies and initiatives in boardrooms of all institutions and corporations. Support those justice issues. Become a consumer at Black businesses in your community. Become active in spreading empowerment information, whether it's through word of mouth to friends and family, via your online networking and emails, or just by having a conversation with colleagues at work. Sometimes getting the conversation started is enough to spur others to join in. Always lead by example. Let's learn to listen more. Before you head out the door with that megaphone to spread your message, remember to always be courteous and open to hearing what other people think and feel. When you may or may not agree on everything, debating issues you feel strongly about in a calm and non-aggressive fashion could be eye-opening and validating for both them and you. Attend a rally. Unfortunately, we've had too many in recent weeks and months. But if history has taught us anything, it is that there is power in numbers. It's all well and good to post information about an event or demonstration that's coming up, but to be there in person, to let people know how you feel, to choose to stand and not be silent. Remember, if you are not a part of the solution, you are part of the problems. You may say these are harsh words, but they are also true words. Reclaim your community. It's vital to get to know your neighbors and those around you. You cannot promote social justice on a broader level without a sense of community. And that means the larger community, not just your block or your neighborhood. You could find that you have similar gripes or even hesitation about things that are going on in the neighborhood and be able to mobilize for change. It's also important to help those who may be struggling around you. You first, before you seek to help others that are outside of your community. Volunteer, as we know all of us do. That's what we're doing today. Sparing some time to help others in need will help organizations struggling to respond to the demands of their need. Support your local organization. There are a multitude of them out there that fight for equality and the basic human rights for all. Find one whose message resonates with you and find out how you can support their events or their campaigns. You can even adopt a politician. Write a monthly letter or an email to a local member of the council. Take action to support legislative initiatives that support social justice. Learn to embrace diversity. Travel to neighborhoods, communities, and events that are ethnically focused to gain a greater appreciation of diverse cultures. Befriend someone of a different race, ethnicity, religion, or age to explore your own prejudices and gain a better understanding of the issues that are affecting them. Sign a petition. We're all bombarded all the time with emails and pleas from groups hoping we will sign their petition or their pledge. It takes just a few minutes to sign your name to one of those documents, but it could mean the world make a world of difference to those trying to give a leg to their cause. Practice what you preach. Remember, social justice begins at home. There's no point in going out and urging others in the community to change their words and their actions if you haven't first looked at your own stomping ground. Get your children, get your friends, get your family involved, and keep them involved and educated about social justice issues and human rights. It will help to give them a global approach and a perspective to their schoolwork and their life, keeping in mind that they are the ones that are our future. Finally, leave your comfort zone. The best way to understand and assist is to build relationships with each other. To truly begin to understand, you must begin to get to know each other. As Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, who was the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations, puts it, as we seek to build the world we want, let us intensify our efforts to achieve a more inclusive, a more equitable, and a more sustainable development path built on dialogue, transparency, and social justice. Northside AARP, thank you for this opportunity. Peace.
Thank you very much. You're a very inspiring speaker, Willie.
Thank you.
You inspired somebody. Our Jeff Glenn, one of our members, wants to work on your texting voters in Evanston.
Absolutely. Just send me his contact information and I'll get it to him.
And also another one of our members, Susan Seidel, said Indivisible Evanston is sponsoring text banking. I assume that means texting people about the voting, to remind people to register to vote and obtain mail-in ballots. You can go to the website. She gives the website. If you look in chat, it's right there. And sign up for the weekly email newsletter, which contains links to sign up for text banking and other actions. And here's a question for you.
Okay.
Are you working also with the Democratic Party of Evanston on text and phone banking?
No, I'm not at this time, because those are the two major initiatives that we have going right now for the NAACP at the national level. So the Evanston North Shore branch has right now about 100 people that have signed up to work in our battleground states with our national initiative. And then we have, I believe, 6 organizations that we are partnering with at the local level through our VAN program that are also contacting infrequent voters in Evanston. So love the Democratic Party, but right now, in the midst of the rallies and the protests also that we're very involved in, the time is just not there right now. For me personally, there may be, and I'm sure there are other people that are in the NAACP group, then I believe there are some already that are working with the Democratic Party.
And I have another question from Mike King. What do you say particularly to our Black youth who are apathetic and who have decided not to vote?
I'm not sure apathetic is the word. If you remember some of the adjectives that I used before, like a sense of hopelessness, not only with our younger generation, but some of the older ones as well. I've just lost trust in our government, and it's very difficult to get that back. They don't see anything changing in their lives, and it's not just about their young lives. They talk to us all the time about, I hear the same thing that my mother talked about, that my father talked about, that my grandparents talked about, that my great-grandparents talked about. and I don't see any difference, So it's an area that we're constantly working on too, but we're still here and we don't go anywhere. We never will go anywhere. So the work just continues every day. We're signing up people. We're able to sit one-on-one, which for us has been the most effective, and talk about some of the progress that we have made, some of the things that they can do even themselves personally, to make things better for themselves, but there is just such a sense of loss and hopelessness in terms of whether what I do will make a difference. There is no evidence, and we cannot tell them that they're wrong, because the evidence is there that for the most part, for generations, things have not changed for them. So it's very difficult to convince them that this time is going to be different. So it's not just white people or people from other races, Black people that are trying to promote voters registration as we are, run into the same issues. And it's a very difficult battle, but we just stay on the front lines and continue to encourage, to support them, to try to get them involved into what we're doing, to make them feel worthwhile, that you're important, that you're needed, that your life matters. You may be the one to change things, so it's just those types of conversations that we have one-on-one. Unfortunately, at many of the rallies we've had also the last few months, has been a benefit, as horrible as it's been, it's brought masses of young people out. So we've gotten an opportunity to be able to speak with them then, and we've changed quite a few minds, so we're very, very, very happy about that.
I have a question. Is the North Shore NAACP taking any part in voter registration and activities in Wisconsin?
Right now, we're working with DuPage County branch in AACP on several initiatives. We were just working last night on a couple of PSAs that we're going to be getting out. We do have some relationships with the NAACP branch in Wisconsin, and we will be doing some work with them. We also partner with Indivisible Evanston. So we also have the mail out postcards that we'll be doing this month and next month with them as well.
Yeah. I have another question for you from Sue Paston. I was listening to a video from a Black commentator, Tim Black, on Northside Democracy for America's website. He said he's not voting for Biden, but will vote for the Green Party. How would you reply to that? He's afraid Biden won't make the changes we need.
Voting is personal. It's a personal decision for everyone, and whomever you choose, you chose that person based on what you thought that person would be able to do in terms of what your interests are. As far as the NAACP is concerned, I will say, as we are a nonpartisan organization. But last July, which is the time that we normally have our national convention, we've never promoted or not promoted anyone. It is the first time in our history since 1909 that the NAACP has said Trump is the worst, and encourage people not to vote for him, because there is not one initiative that we can cite that he has started given, even though he say he has. The man even said a few weeks ago that he's done more for Black people than John Lewis did. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. So it is the first time that NAACP has said we will not support this person. And that is the message that we get out that we will not, and the reasons that we will not, and not just what he has not done for African Americans and the United States, but all the defamatory things that he has said against African Americans, even during these last several weeks, not being able to even voice an objection to what has happened in Wisconsin with the Blake family, but yet can be almost encouraging, of the young man that walked around with the rifle in front of everyone, so we just cannot support that, and people have a right to choose whom they choose and for whatever reason they choose them.
I think that's quite telling. In all the history, this is the first time that you've made a comment on a candidate.
Yes, it's the first time in history that we have.
Does anyone else have a question? If you do, write it in the chat or let me know right now. I guess not. This has been very inspiring, Willie, and I appreciate your talking to us today, especially considering you just had some surgery. So
thank you so much.
We're
I was just happy I could be here. Wasn't sure I was going to have a voice, but I hope I was clear enough. Oh,
you were very clear.
I hope I was clear enough.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.